Welcome to my channel. Brandy was here. I am Brandy Nicole Walker, and I am a little bit of everything. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a life coach. I'm your best friend on the internet. I am one to keep it real. I am a lot of things, but today I am here in a supportive capacity. I am starting a series. This is the first of a 5-part series called How to End the Year Whole. Working as a life coach, working with nonprofit organizations, working with entrepreneurs, working with CEOs, business owners, I recognize that this year, or this time of year rather, gets very heavy for a lot of people. It gets heavy for a number of reasons. One being there is both excitement and anxiety about getting to the end of the year. You know, we have been surviving, maybe some of us thriving and are suffering through the year. And then the end of the year comes and there's like this burst of energy, positive and negative energy that comes with the end of the year. And we're all like trying to get somewhere or not go somewhere as the end of the year approaches. There's gonna be a lot of anxiety around like a lot of holidays at the end of the year and the need to get together with family. There could be excitement around like, you know, closing out the year strong, as people say. I know that when I was a kid, I was excited about the end of the year because we had more time out of school. Christmas was coming up. I might have got some gifts. There's a lot going on, but the end of the year can also be a time when people feel the most isolated, right? And this is where, if you're a person who is experiencing brokenness and you have tried to put yourself back together, this is when that pain is going to start leaking through the cracks, so to speak. I want to just say a disclaimer. I am not a therapist, okay? Not a psychologist. I'm just, you know, a girl that has been there, done that, and I want to offer you some wisdom from my own personal experience and the experience of others that I have coached and, worked with. There's a phrase that says each one teach one, or when people say, you know, when you learn something new, teach it to somebody else, pay it forward, pay it back. I truly believe that when I have gone through something and I get through it, my give back is helping other people get through it with less intensity, less pain, and less mistakes than before. So like this 5-part series is going to cover a lot of different things. I'm going to try to make these nice and succinct because I tend to like go on tangents. I did something I usually don't do, y'all, which I made notes for this, so you know I'm serious. I'm here to teach tonight, not just to talk, okay? So tonight being part 1, I wanted to, before we get into the wholeness and all of that, I wanted to spend some time talking about what breaks us. Oh, I put my water all the way over there. What breaks us? I spoke in general about, you know, the feelings or emotions that come up around this time of year. But I don't want to ignore everything that's been happening for the entire year or years prior. A lot of us are broken from things or come into the world or have come into a place now where we are less than whole because things way back in our past has broken us. You probably have heard people talk about, you know, childhood trauma and healing your inner child. Yeah, that's one thing, right? And it's an important thing to think about and do. Perhaps you get anxiety around Christmas because your family was a mess around the holiday times, right? Families were coming together at Thanksgiving and they were fighting at the dinner table, right? Which you didn't conjure up warm and fuzzy and happy memories for you. So when you hear other people talking about their excitement about getting together with family during the holidays and all the pie they're going to eat and this and that, you don't share those same sentiments, okay? There are 2 types of things that break us. There's tangible things and then there's intangible things. I'm gonna spend a lot of time talking about the intangible things, okay? Some of the tangible things too, because y'all are researchers and scholars in your own right. Don't call me out on things because some of these things can be both, okay? Tangible things that can break you. this year or in years prior. Trauma. Any kind of trauma. You've had an adverse experience. Maybe you experienced trauma for years and years and years, and now you're at a point in your adult life where you can finally start to experience some happiness. You recognize that love doesn't have to, what's that song? I think it's Ja Rule, Pain is Love. You recognize that love does not have to be painful. And people in your life now are trying to bring you good memories, but you still can't get past all the bad memories. Okay? Perhaps you lost someone or something, right? Grief is real. Grief is real. I was watching Poetic Justice earlier, and if you've seen that movie or not, it starts with the bang. Justice, who is Janet Jackson, is dating a drug dealer, a gangbanger, who's played by Q-Tip. Who's played by Q-Tip, and they're at the drive-in movies, and he is murdered in front of her at the movies. Okay, and she is grieving. The first part of the movie, she is grieving. Okay, and everybody around her is telling her, like, it's time to move on. Like, girl, you just gonna keep wearing black? Like, you're not gonna go out no more? She's talking to the her boss at the hair salon, and she's talking about going to this club, and she's like, oh, the last time I was there it looked like it. She's like, I know it's been a while since you've been out. Like, they're just like, girl, when are you gonna get on with your life? Okay, but the grieving process is different for everybody. And while a lot of people can understand grieving the loss of a human being, there are other things that we lose, right? There are other things that we lose where sometimes people can be less understanding. Okay? A couple years ago, my dog died. Okay, I cried for a week, and people were telling me, oh, it's just a dog. Okay, but that dog wasn't in your house every day. He didn't sleep on the side of your bed. You didn't feed him every day. You didn't walk him. You don't know how much time I spent with that dog. Okay, because some people couldn't understand that I would have such a connection, so much emotion to a dog. Okay? Sometimes you lose other things, right? I have a friend who, in high school was all about her hair. Just get her hair done every week. Hair used to be fried, dyed, and laid to the side, as they say. Okay. And then she realized towards the end of high school and her early adult life that she had alopecia. Okay. She grieved for years regarding her hair. Okay. Some people might say, oh, girl, just put a wig on. Okay. But have you ever lost your hair? You might have lost a job that was really meaningful for you. It was your first job, or you've been there years, or you created bonds with people at work, and now you don't have that job. Maybe you've been a victim of all of these corporate layoffs. Maybe you chose to leave the job for a better opportunity, but either way, you're grieving that loss. Moving, relocating, right? As a child, I moved a lot. And it was painful at the beginning to constantly have to start over, to try and make new friends, to meet new people, to get to learn my surroundings, to figure out a new way to go to school, right? To get used to the lunch, to find my class, to remember my teacher's name, right? I was grieving as a child, but people, they aren't always aware or understanding of that, okay? Grief can come in many forms. Loss can come in many forms. I wrote about a few years back when I first got married, I was grieving the loss of my last name. It was weird to me. I was, Brandy Varnado for 30 plus years. And then I got married and I was trying to adapt to this new name and figure out who I was under this new title, right? That was weird to me. The loss of that identity, okay? Other tangible things that can break us, okay, is embracing a new identity. Okay? As you get older, you might develop some gray hairs. You might have gained or lost weight, okay? You might start to look different. You might have some wrinkles that pop up, some saggy skin here or there, okay? Things that break us, things that, these things break us because they interrupt our own belief of ourselves and force us to view ourselves in a different way. When we start to get depressed and upset is when we don't go with the flow of that. When we try to resist seeing the new us or the new whatever. Okay. Other tangible things that can break us. Health. Okay. You may have experienced a sickness, an illness. You may have a physical disability now, maybe even deformity. Okay. Maybe you've lost a limb. Okay. When you take on a health condition, that becomes part of your identity, right? Because it forces you to change who you see yourself as or who you have behaved as. Okay. If you get diagnosed as a diabetic, you get diagnosed with psoriasis, right? These are conditions and things that don't just go away. So you have to adapt to them because they're not going to adapt to you. And the adaptation, the changing, the trying to adapt, the understanding of this new layer added to your life, it can break you. It can break you. Some of the intangible things that break us. Stress. Now, sometimes stress manifests in the physical, right? One, people always talk about avoiding burnout. Some people say that they're burnt out, okay, when they have been burnt to a crisp, okay? They see the smoke and no alarms are going off, okay? They see the blaze and no alarms are going off, okay? They start to see the house crumble and no alarms are going off. Once that thing has burnt down to the ground and they're looking at the remains, then they say, whoo, I'm burnt out. Okay. We can get better at recognizing the symptoms of burnout ahead of time. Okay. But that has to do with regulating your nervous system. That has to do with self-awareness. I'm not going to talk specifically about that tonight, but stress is one of those intangible things that break us. Because we go from taking on more responsibility or adding a new task to our plate or learning a new skill that requires more focus and more attention to these things starting to consume our life. Okay. And while on the physical, there's no real change. If you go from, and this is an extreme example, you go from, being a couch potato, sitting at home watching Jerry Springer all day. I don't know if that still comes on, but you're watching your reality TV all day. And now all of a sudden you have a job that you're working at for 8 hours that requires you to be people facing and pleasant and answering questions and inputting data. That's going to cause stress because you're using more brain power, right? You're not going to see the signs of stress immediately. Okay. It could be weeks, months, or years. Okay. And then you start to notice, gosh, I've been staring at this computer all day. I kind of have a headache. Oh, my wrist is hurting, right? I might have carpal tunnel. Oh, my neck, my back, my lower back. I don't sleep well at night, right? Because we've allowed the stress to get to a point where it's manifested into something negative. Stress can break us when it occurs undiagnosed, when we're not managing our stress. We're not talking about it. We're not having things in place that lower our stress. Some of y'all watching this might work in high stress environments. You're a paramedic, you're a doctor, you might be a firefighter, you're the CEO of a company, what have you. These things require you to work under pressure, okay? And these things slowly over time can break you. You can develop anxiety from constant stress, right? When I was a teacher, I talk with my friend about this all the time. I believe I developed PTSD from teaching in the classroom. When I was in my final years of teaching, I would pull up to work and I would sit in the car and cry before I went to work. I would sit in the car and drink 2 energy drinks. I would go into work and my whole body language said I'm near death, right? Going back into the classroom, I was just visiting somebody and I started to have a panic attack, or I was having panic attacks in the classroom because that stress turned into anxiety. So every time I came around something that reminded me of teaching, I would shut down. I would get nervous. I would have a panic attack. I would start sweating. Right? My heart would start beating fast. I would have shortness of breath. Okay? These are intangible things turning into tangible and physical things. Other intangible things that break us. Guilt. Okay? You guys know mom guilt is real. Guilt weighs on you in a way of you feeling bad a lot of times when other people believe you shouldn't feel bad, or they totally understand, which is why mom guilt is so hard, right? I have always worked one or multiple jobs as long as I've been a mom. I remember there would be times where my son would have something at school. I'd be like, oh, I'm not able to get off work today. I can't make it. My son would be like, that's okay. I don't care about that anyways, right? But I cared, right? I cared and it hurt me. He doesn't even remember half that stuff, right? Doesn't matter to him, but it mattered to me. So sometimes we carry around guilt where it doesn't matter to the other person, but it has such a profound effect on us because we have these sometimes unrealistic expectations for how we should and need to show up in people's life. I need to be there for every single thing that they have going. I can never miss a family engagement or commitment. I have to be at every single practice. I need to answer the phone every time somebody calls. And when I don't, oh my God, I feel like I'm not a good sister, daughter, mother, brother, cousin, uncle, granddaddy. I'm not a good person if a family member calls and I don't answer immediately. If somebody texts me and I take too long to respond. If I'm not following my friends on social media, even though everything they post drives me crazy or makes me sad or makes me develop FOMO or imposter syndrome, I'm going to still follow them because we're friends and that's what friends do. I'm going to keep showing up to these family engagements because if I don't, and people recognize I'm not there, they're going to think something's wrong. Oh, I know I'm tired. I just worked 12 hours straight, but I got to go to that family engagement because all the family's going to be there and I can't miss it. Right? That guilt plays a role. I was going back to mom guilt. I got to cook dinner every night because my family's got to have dinner made by me specifically every night. Can't order pizza, can't go out, can't have DoorDash. No, they can't have cereal. I got to cook after working all day. Guilt. Okay. Low self-esteem is also one of those intangible things. When you don't feel good about yourself, when you don't have a high value appreciation for yourself, you don't feel good. You don't think good thoughts. Your self-talk is negative. Okay? Your mindset is negative. You see everybody around you as a threat. Okay? You don't take the time to put any effort into your appearance or put any effort into your work because you just feel like, well, it is what it is. Okay? Those intangible things weigh on us heavy because it doesn't just affect our thoughts. It affects everything. Okay? It affects how we behave. It affects how we interact with other people. It affects, the goals we make and how we move forward. Okay? These things matter. Okay? So these things, and I listed a bunch of things. These could have happened this year, earlier this year. You could have started the year in January with so much optimism and excitement, and you had your planner together, and you set your goals, and you made SMART goals this year, not just any goals. You made SMART goals, and you set your New Year's resolution, even though people said it wasn't making resolutions, and you said this is my year. And then in February, maybe you got laid off. In February, maybe you went through a breakup. In February, maybe you experienced a loss anytime this year. And you have been broken, but you have been afraid to share that brokenness. You figure people are too busy. Oh, there's a lot going on. You figure nobody had time to listen. You didn't have time for it because you figured, I'm just going to work through. I'm just going to keep going to work and keep showing up and keep going on with life, and then things will get better. I'll deal with that later. And then you never deal with it. So you're walking around broken. And what impact does brokenness have on you? When you are broken, you do not function properly. That brokenness can be physical, it can be mental, it can be emotional. But when you are broken, when there is a fragment, a tear, a crack in the foundation, you don't function properly. Okay? What do I mean by that? You don't think correctly. You don't think in ways that are of your best interest. What I mean by that, let me give you an example. You're dealing with loss or grief. Job, person, friend, relationship, sock, whatever. And you're missing that person, place, or thing in your life. Well, rather than deal with it, address it, become aware of it, name it, call it out as it is what it is, we try to fill that void with something. Sex, drugs, alcohol, social media, watching more TV, eating, overeating, eating unhealthily, right? Hanging out more, sleeping has always been my go-to. When I'm sad and depressed, I'm just go to sleep. I'm dealing with nothing. Right? I'm just go to sleep. Okay? We try to fill all these things with what we're missing, with the loss, so that we don't have to deal with the grief, so that we don't have to deal with the emotion of it. Okay? I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm depressed. I called two of my friends, they didn't answer. Let me go eat some ice cream. Right? And that provides some form of companionship almost to us. I don't know if you guys watch the show, My 600 Pound Life. I'm obsessed. Okay. But there are people who, on My 600 Pound Life, it comes on TLC, and there are people who all across the country are morbidly obese. And by morbidly, they are anywhere from 400 pounds to nearly 1,000 pounds. And they travel to Houston to visit Dr. Nell, who is going to give them bariatric surgery and get them on a plan to lose weight and living a healthy life. Now, out of all the seasons, and I've watched every season, out of all the shows I watched, most people don't lose the weight and they don't go through with the plan, even when they qualify to get the surgery. Why is that? Well, because food is replacing something in their life. Friend, family, it's helping them cope with their emotions. In the latter seasons, right, the doctor has been sending them to therapy to talk through these emotions. Those people seem to do well. But it always comes back to a gap, a void that they're trying to fill by eating the food. And many of them try to fill it with something else, but somehow the food just seems more satisfying, right? French fries taste good. I don't know how therapy tastes. It's not as good, right? It's not as good as cheesecake. Think of how the cheesecake, right? So they're trying to fill these voids. It is rare that people fill a void with something healthy, right? People say, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing this loss. Let me go journal about it. Let me pick up exercise. And some people do, and they overdo that as well. We have people exercising 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, right, to get over a breakup. Or you have people that become obsessive, compulsive in monitoring their diet, right, to look good, to get this revenge body to show off to their ex or whoever. Right? People who experience divorce go and lose a bunch of weight and become health freaks, so to speak. Or you become obsessed with self-help and all you read is self-help books and you want to go to Dr. Phil and you watching Iyanla and you just become obsessed with this thing. So that's more rare than the other thing, but it does happen. But going back to what I said earlier, when you're broken, right, you don't function properly. Now take a vase, for example, or a vase, however you say it. And let's say, you know, you got a kid, your own child, niece, nephew, somebody, and they come over your house and they knock it over and breaks in little pieces. And then the parent of that child says, oh, don't worry about it, I can fix it. And they get out super glue and they super glue it back together. But because of how it fell, there's little chips on the side, right? You can see where the glue is going in. It's kind of glue, but it's not all the way right. Like it'll never come back together how it was. And that's how it is when you're broken, okay? Can that vase still function? Probably, right? Depending on the amount of care, time, attention, the resources and materials that were used to put it back together, it might function a little better than if, you know, you tried to use duct tape. Okay, glue might work better than duct tape. Okay, holding it in place until it bonds might be better than just throwing it on together, right? There are techniques and resources for how you rebuild and put yourself back together. Some that are better than others, okay? But all that depends on you and how you function and the resources that you have at your disposal. What breaks you doesn't necessarily destroy you. What breaks you doesn't necessarily destroy you, okay? You might experience some destruction, like some things might be torn down and never come back. Things will not ever be the same as how they were. But that brokenness, right? You can still get, as Iyanla Vanzant says, you can still get peace from broken pieces. Okay, that tall vase wasn't working. Maybe it needed to be shorter. Okay, the paint is chipped. Now you get a new paint job, right? The breaking is an opportunity for you to become whole again. Perhaps what you thought was wholeness, right, was really disguising something all along. A lot of us walk around like, you know, our shit don't stink and it be funky, right? It be funky. So the breaking, right, doesn't necessarily have to destroy you. It's an opportunity for you to reconfigure. My theme of this year has been reinvention. It's an opportunity for you to reinvent yourself and come back stronger as the vase you were meant to be, as the vase you desire to be, okay? You didn't want to be tan. You wanted to be green, okay? Or that shade of green wasn't really working for you. It had run its course. And now that you're in a new season, you have an opportunity to get back to being whole. I truly believe that we all have a desire. Like, it's within our purpose for us to be whole. To be whole, to be happy, to be at peace. You may not think that because you have been living so long in dysfunction and brokenness that you think that is the norm. But I promise you it's not. I promise you it's not. Being broken, being dysfunctional, being upset, being stressed, experiencing anxiety all the time, that is not normal. And by not normal, I don't believe that's the intention. Now, if you experience those things, and I do, right, then I think your purpose in this lifetime is to figure out how to get to wholeness, how to get closer to being whole. And that, for some, is not an easy task. That is going to take some self-awareness and accountability. That's going to take you envisioning what healthy is going to look like for you and what you can maintain. That's going to involve you setting some boundaries and communicating those boundaries. And then you have to actually embody that thing that you see. When you say, this is what wholeness is to me, now you got to show, improve, and put that into action. And those are things that we're going to be talking about for the next few sessions. I hope you gained something from this. I should have told you when you started to have a pen and piece of paper out ready. But you probably just thought to take notes on your own because that's you. As I always say, I'm rooting for you, and I really, really mean that. I'm rooting for you because I know what it's like to not have people rooting for you. I know what it's like to, you know, show up for the big game and have nobody in the stands and it be dead silent. I know what it's like to want to do something and feel like you have no support. I know what it's like to be out here struggling in every sense of the word, in every area of your life. And all you want is for somebody to step in and say, I got you. I'm here for you. Let me be that for you. I am rooting for you from the bottom of my heart. But I'm also going to hold you accountable for doing the work, okay? So I'll see you guys tomorrow and for the next few sessions. Do me a favor. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe on this YouTube video. Share this with somebody that you love so they can get their life together too. Don't keep it to yourself.